So today we're going to be matchmaking for the UFC's featherweight division. So these matchups are based off the news, kind of the rumours that we're going to get Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez and Movsar Evloev versus Aaron Pico. So I am taking those two fights into account while I'm matchmaking for the rest of the division to try and make it a bit more realistic. So let's get into it. Obviously, the championship matchup, Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez. It's ass. It doesn't make any sense at all. Yair Rodriguez is only getting this matchup because he's Mexican. It doesn't make any sense at all. He's so undeserving. It's insane. It's crazy. But anyway, this is what I think we're going to get for UFC 320 in Guadalajara, Mexico. Again, the only reason Yair is getting this matchup is because he is Mexican. That's the only reason why. Moving on, Aaron Pico versus Movsar Evloev. It seems like this is going to be a 5-round fight night co-main event. It's not got the main event spot. I think the main event of this is Robert Whittaker versus Renan de Ridder, if I remember correctly. But this right here, again, is another matchup that doesn't make any sense. The matchups are right in front of the UFC for the featherweight division. It's arguably probably one of the more easier divisions to matchmake because a lot of the matchups make sense. But with the UFC potentially making Volk versus Yair and Evloev versus Pico, it kind of throws a spanner in the works and kind of fucks up the whole logical sense to book the division. This fight doesn't make any sense at all. Aaron Pico wasn't even really that big of a name in Bellator. I don't know why. Maybe someone can let me know in the comments. I know who Aaron Pico is. I've seen some of his fights, not all of them. I wasn't a big Bellator watcher. I tune in for their big events, if they ever really had any. But what has Aaron Pico done in Bellator that would warrant him a shot at a likes of a Movsar Evloev? Like Patricio Pitbull getting Yair Rodriguez, I understood that. Patricio Pitbull is the GOAT of the Bellator organisation, 2-division world champion. Michael Chandler, again, another well-known name in the world of MMA, like his matchups with Eddie Alvarez, etc. This guy was well-known. Same with MVP. Aaron Pico doesn't have that kind of name draw factor that those other guys had, in my opinion anyway. Movsar Evloev is going to beat him. Aaron Pico does have good boxing. He's a very big puncher and he does have good wrestling, but Movsar Evloev has really good hands in my opinion. Yes, he lacks the power, but really good hands, and his grappling is next level. Now let's get on to how the UFC should book the rest of the featherweight division. Let's start off with someone else in the rankings. We've got Diego Lopez. Look, Diego Lopez, a very fun fighter, a very fan-friendly fighter. He's always in fun matchups. He was in a really good matchup there with Volkanovski. He came up short in that, but did have a lot of success, at times nearly finishing Volkanovski twice. Before that, he beat up Brian Ortega at UFC 306 in the Sphere. Diego Lopez is loved by pretty much the entire MMA fan base. Now again, it should be Diego Lopez versus Yair Rodriguez, another obvious matchup to make. And I'm going to be honest, Diego Lopez, someone pointed this out in my comments in one of my other videos, Diego Lopez versus Yair Rodriguez could have main evented UFC Noche. Now, people might laugh at that, but the build-up, the animosity between those guys, that sells. That shit sells. People will be invested in the storyline, the beef that they have. If the UFC would do their job and promote properly, imagine a sit-down face-to-face interview. Diego Lopez, you've got Joe Rogan in the middle, or maybe John Anik would probably be better in my opinion. Diego Lopez, John Anik, Yair Rodriguez facing each other, and they're just going back and forth. That shit would explode. Oh my god, I'm gonna blow! But that shit would explode, go so viral, that it could be like a Kobe Masvidal situation where it could headline its own card, because people will be so invested in the beef, and both guys do have fun fight styles. But since the UFC don't have a functional brain amongst the workers that do the matchmaking, we're going to do Diego Lopez versus Gene Silva. Now look, Gene Silva obviously is ranked very low. He's ranked number 11th. He is coming off a win over Bryce Mitchell, but the UFC are going to have to do some making up. They're going to have to make up with some very good matchmaking and very entertaining fights, because they've just ruined the UFC's featherweight division by their recent shit that they're doing. Gene Silva, Diego Lopez, co-main event could headline its own fight night. Yes, I know Gene Silva is skipping the queue, but he's a very, very big name. He's on a crazy win streak. I know it's not right to do this, and in fact not normally, I would always disagree with this, but for the sake of the featherweight division, you have to make interesting matchups now, and this is interesting. Now, I was going to say, I think if you look at the featherweight division, you can kind of see Gene Silva would beat a lot of the guys in front of him, if we're being honest. But you don't know. We haven't seen him in there with those guys. I think there are some guys like an Aljamain Sterling I think would cause Gene Silva a bit of problems because Aljo's grappling is just next level. But Diego Lopez, Gene Silva, it's a massive matchup. It could headline its own fight night. It'd be the perfect co-main event. It's just all out violence. And if Gene Silva is able to beat Diego Lopez, he's straight in there for a title shot, which there's a lot of dead wood in the UFC's rankings in the featherweight division, if I'm being honest. You know, you've got the likes of Josh Emmett. He's still fairly highly ranked in the division. You know, we need to start getting the new caliber of featherweights up the rankings here and prioritising them in big matchups. So Gene Silva versus Diego Lopez, a very fun matchup. I think Diego Lopez would beat Gene Silva, to be honest. I think Diego Lopez is really good. I really do. He's a big puncher, and his grappling is next level as well. Plus, he is massive for the featherweight division. Obviously, Gene Silva has beaten the likes of a Drew Dober in the lightweight division, and Gene Silva is good, as much as it pains me to say that. Gene Silva is good. Reports are he beat Bryce Mitchell. I think it was AI generated because I didn't see that fight live. So a part of me feels like it's AI generated. I don't recall it happening in real time, but you know, that's what the record books say. We'll move past it anyway. But yeah, Gene Silva, Diego Lopez, it's a matchup that I don't think anybody would complain about really, and it's a fun matchup. Styles make fights, really good fight. Diego Lopez beats him. Moving on, Arnold Allen, I think he's coming back soon. He was out with an injury. We haven't seen him fight since UFC 304, so nearly coming up a year. Arnold Allen, I think you do him versus Lerone Murphy, and hear me out, this would be the perfect card for it. If John Jones is still going to be out there in Thailand acting fruity with a bunch of Dagestani guys, that's fine. By all means, crack on. If you want to do that, that's okay. You're 40 with a wife and kids at home, but you want to act a bit gay. I don't know, can you say that on YouTube? Anyway, I'm keeping it in with a load of guys in Thailand. That's entirely up to you. You do that. So let's get Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane headlining a pay-per-view in the UK. That fight will be massive. For Europe, it will be a big event, especially UFC put it on normal UK fight time, and have Lerone Murphy versus Arnold Allen as the feature fight to that. Lerone Murphy, undefeated, 16-0. Arnold Allen, well known in the UFC, a proven top elite featherweight. And if Lerone Murphy's able to beat an Arnold Allen, I think he gets a title shot. I think he would have earned that, in my opinion. If Arnold Allen is able to get the bounce back win over he beat Giga Chikadze, so ignore that. But if he gets a win over the undefeated guy in Lerone Murphy, it puts Arnold Allen one win off a title shot, in my opinion. So it gets Arnold Allen right back in the mix. Two English guys as well. I think Arnold Allen can bring out an interesting fight in Lerone Murphy, who is kind of like the smaller Leon Edwards. Very good everywhere, but is boring. But I think Arnold Allen can draw a fun matchup out of Lerone Murphy. I think it's a perfect fight to be on that Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane card. Moving on, we have got Brian Ortega. I don't think he's moving the lightweight, to be honest. I think he is going to stay in the featherweight division. And I think him versus Aljamain Sterling is a perfect fight to make. Again, a feature fight to a pay-per-view. I was going to say co-main event, but I don't think it's that good. Feature fight would be good for this. And I think their grappling can make for a fun fight. Aljamain Sterling, Movsar Evloev was a fun fight. That was interesting grappling exchanges, and Aljo nearly beat him. Aljamain Sterling is elite. I think he's much better than what his ranking would suggest in the featherweight division. And Brian Ortega is also a very high-leveled UFC featherweight ranked fighter. This guy's fought for the belt twice. He's coming off a loss to Diego Lopez, but before that beat Yair Rodriguez. But yet Yair Rodriguez is ranked above him in the rankings. Again, I don't want to crash out here on this video. This is my third video in a row talking about the featherweight division. But anyway, the best matchmaker on YouTube is here, so I'm here to save this division. Aljamain Sterling, Brian Ortega, really fun fight. Could be at some fight night main event, to be honest. Maybe in like the Apex. It could be in a crowded arena. I think it should be. But it's got Fight Night Apex written all over it. Aljo versus Brian Ortega. It's a fight that everyone's been talking about for a while anyway. Makes a lot of sense. Make it happen. Moving on, we've got Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett can have fun fights. He needs to be put in there with a guy that is willing to engage with him. Let's get Patricio Pitbull in there. I think that makes sense. Patricio Pitbull obviously coming off that loss to Yair Rodriguez at UFC 314. He's 37 years of age. He's a well-known name in the world of MMA. He's not getting any younger. I'm sure the UFC are paying him big bucks. Let's get him an interesting matchup. Josh Emmett, Patricio Pitbull is money. What a matchup that would be. That could be at some Fight Night main event, to be honest, if you've done that like Brazil or something for Patricio Pitbull. But feature fight to a pay-per-view. Main card opener actually would be better. Patricio Pitbull, Josh Emmett. Awesome fight. Awesome fight. I think someone would get stopped in that matchup as well. I think it's a really, really fun matchup. And I think it makes sense. Moving on, we've got David Oama. Let's match him up with Forrest Gump and Yusuf Zalal. Look, these are like two fringe top 10 prospects in the UFC's featherweight division. Both guys have won their last 3 matchups. Yusuf Zalal's finished 2 out of his last 3 opponents. David Oama has finished none, but he is coming off a win over Giga Chikadze. Let's just match these two guys together on like some Fight Night card. I don't really care what position it is as long as it's not in the last 3 fights. It could maybe be a main card opener to a Fight Night card in a crowded arena, just to see what guy is getting, who is going to be the next one to be pushed into the top 10. You know what I mean? Who's going to be getting one of those bigger names in the division. Let's just get this matchup going. Moving on, we've got Giga Chikadze. Now, Giga Chikadze is coming off a loss to David Oama. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, actually, but yet he's ranked above David Oama. Doesn't make sense. If you want to see how to fix the UFC's featherweight rankings, make sure you watch yesterday's video. But Giga Chikadze, I think him versus Dan Ige, fun fight for any pay-per-view, prelim on a pay-per-view. Dan Ige coming off a big win over Sean Woodson. I think he deserves another big name. Giga Chikadze isn't that big of a name, but he's ranked. He's still ranked. I think he is ranked above Dan Ige as well. Yeah, he is. So Dan Ige deserves a jump up in the rankings. Dan Ige, Giga Chikadze, stylistically, fun fight written all over it. Dan Ige, Giga Chikadze, make it happen. And finally, to round off the video, we've got Calvin Kattar. Let's put Calvin Kattar in there with Bryce Mitchell. Why is Bryce Mitchell still not ranked? Why is he went unranked in the UFC's featherweight division after the Gene Silva matchup? Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But Calvin Kattar on a losing streak. He's still ranked inside the top 15. Bryce Mitchell should be ranked inside the top 15. They're two well-known names that people know. Perfect co-main event to a Fight Night. Bryce Mitchell, Calvin Kattar, make it happen. So yeah, those are the matchups the UFC should make for the featherweight division. And this is all based off the news that the UFC have dropped about Yair Volk, Mozart, Aaron Pico. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these matchups? Who do you think wins them? What matchups would you like to see? And as always, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. I appreciate all the support as always. We're closing in on 1K. We're like 8 subs off. So I'd appreciate if you could share all that shit, like it, help push it out there. I'm trying to hit 1K by the end of the year. And we've already nearly hit it by June. So that's pretty good going if you ask me. Thank you for the support. See you in the next one.